Well, my lord, welcome to the guard. It's always a pleasure to have your company and to see that you show some interest in our training. Yes, my lord, it is good to have you aboard. I was just answering some questions that the men had. One question was, a fellow was saying, when he draws his bow, as it comes back, he always lets go. Sometimes that's called target panic. He says that if he keeps his eyes closed, he can get it back. But if his eyes are open, he will let go. In my experience, there's usually one of two problems that cause this. One is simply that the bow is heavy, and there's a tendency, rather than strain the fingers, the body will just let go. If this bow is heavy, and this is your problem, only strength or getting a lighter bow will work. So that's one of the main problems. Now, another problem is what I call false release. False release. And what I mean by that is we may be working on a part of our form, such as perhaps touching the corner of the mouth, or bending the knee, or holding the elbow in a certain position. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it's touching the corner of the mouth. So what the fellow does is he's thinking about the corner of his mouth. He's not thinking about the target. He's not thinking 100% about aiming. He's thinking about the corner of his mouth. So now he draws back, and as his finger touches the corner of his mouth, he lets go. He just thinks, there, boom, and lets go. The truth is, his elbow wasn't all the way back, or the tip wasn't really on. But he wasn't thinking about the tip being on. He was just thinking about the corner of the mouth. So these false triggers are something that will often get you to let go early. And that's just part of working on your form. But that can be a big problem. You get to the spot and you go, there. Even though you're not ready, you've accomplished your task, which is touching the corner of your mouth. But you haven't aimed yet. So I would just say, slow down a little bit. See if you can do some exercises to get a bit stronger. And try to relax, and this problem should go away. But false triggers are a problem. Anyhow, let's trade our battle axe for our battle bow and do a little bit of shooting. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Well, my friends, so let's take a couple of shots. There are many steps that you can take in your form. For instance, you can stand with your right foot off to the right. That's an open stance. Or you can place your feet one behind the other towards the target. Or you can take a back step and actually have your foot to the left of the line. You can even take a great big step. When you do a big step, you'll see that you can do it and get the bow over the target. If you stand with your feet sideways, you can get your bow or your arrow or your eye over the target. If you open up your stance, you can get your eye over the arrow. So there's more than one way to stand. If I want to get over the arrow, I can simply lean. I can simply bend my knee I can simply take a back step and bring it around. All these ways will get my eye over the arrow. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to hit the target necessarily. So there's many ways of attaining the line, whether it's with your feet or your knee or your waist or your head angle, all these things. Now, the thing is, why do these things work and not work, and what is the common denominator? Now, what I have really found is that the most important thing is not where I put my feet. I can put my feet open or closed. What I really find is this pressure in my elbow. This is really where I believe the shot comes from. If that arm is relaxed, that pressure goes straight. This is the most important thing. Whether I have my feet open, I have to have the pressure from my elbow. Whether I'm bending at the waist, I have to have the pressure from my elbow. No matter what I do, that's what I feel is the most important thing, is feeling that pressure hanging from the elbow. That is the common denominator. When you can do that, you pretty well always are going to hit that target, no matter how you hold that bow. Okay? And these days I'm doing what I call a parallel draw. You know, I'll just look at the target, and I have an open stance. I'll turn my head over to the left to get the dominant eye up there, and I will leave my hand open and tug on the bow. Leave my hand open, tug on the bow, and the bow finds its own angle. You have to tug on that bow a few inches first, or there's no point trying to line up. Okay? And then tug, and it will just simply go over and on. So the whole arrow, the left hand, the right hand, the arrow, all move parallel until they're on the line. Anyhow, it works very good. So it's a little open stance, head over, little tug, let the bow find its angle, bring it over, bang. It's very important to have that arm back. And so this allows you much more freedom because you're not carefully lining up and getting your head behind it and everything like that, which is something that I've done a million times, but I don't find it really necessary. It's really the fact that the arrow is aligned. That's what's important. Okay? So that's a little something that I had to say. Okay, we'll be back in a minute. Well, my friends, you know, sometimes I have little stories that help me explain how I feel about archery. It's a Tiger Woods story, you know. I tell people that archery is a lot like golf, and that anybody can hit a ball with a stick. But not everybody is Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods does not get a hole in one every shot. And Robin Hood didn't get a bullseye or split the arrow every shot either. It's a very difficult thing to do well. But that's how I feel about it, you know. So we all get to shoot and have some fun. That's the main thing, I think, you know, that we enjoy this sport. Could be better than that. There's a few things that make archery difficult. And one is that being human, we can move in a billion different positions when we're taking form. And we can't really coordinate ourselves as well as we'd like. For instance, if you take your finger, I think we've done this before, but and touch your nose 10 times, you'll see that you can get close, but you can't really get it right on. So physically, it's very difficult for us to do. Now, another thing is, I noticed that if we took a bow and put it up in the sky, all the arrows would go to the same spot. But humans never shoot to the same spot twice. It's because of these two little boys, I call them. The two hands have to be coordinated, but I call them the two little boys. And I like to tell the story how the two little boys are pulling on a towel, and one lets go and the other falls down. We've all seen that, you know. So when we're letting go, there's, 40, 50, 60 pounds, 25, 120 pounds, whatever, is being released, and it causes some movement. So that makes it really, really difficult. The anchor that I'm using these days, though, is again a parallel distance from my eye and my jaw to the target. So that's the spot. And I touch that spot sometimes, just touch it. So I get familiar with it. There's no knob there, there's no pin, there's nothing that you can touch. So it's just a feeling. So you can get used to that feeling. It's, eye on. Take that little open back step. Turn that head over. Draw the bow, let it and open your hand a bit, let it find its own spot. And you'd be looking at the target, but the arrow is to the right and it's parallel to it. And there we go. And anyhow, that's just a couple shots, down the hall. But again, the arrow is off on the side, and it just comes in like that. And I just took a couple of shots there. Now, usually I'm not going to do this, but check this out. Right there. And you can see that, we're getting our hits by doing this type of thing. It's not just going blah, blah, blah. Okay? So it's not much point in showing you the shots inside here, but we're hitting it and we're telling you how to do it. Anyhow, be back in a minute. Okay, my friends. So new archers sometimes ask very obvious questions. They just don't know. And we can answer a few questions, I suppose, of things that, would seem really apparent to an experienced archer. Couldn't be better. The question of quivers and my opinion about quivers, about a quiver like this from Bear Paw, which is a back quiver. Going to sit back here. It's got adjustable straps, or a little side quiver like this that just will hang off your pants, just like it was hanging like that. Personally, I really prefer these side quivers. They're less expensive, and I think that they're much more practical. The arrows are right by your side, so you can see how many you've got, and your hand is right there, so you can just take them out. The back quiver, you usually see guys kind of going like this. It looks clumsy, and they'll get this or that arrow, and sometimes you'll see they have to push their arm way up like this to get their arrow out. If they like it, fine, but it doesn't look that practical to me. And to tell you the truth, the archer that I really like the most in the world, I think, is Byron Ferguson. I like Byron Ferguson. He's a really neat guy. But I noticed that Byron wears this back quiver, and he's always holding the strap and tugging the strap. And what I noticed was, even though this is a great archer, he takes a shot, the quiver slides down the back, he tugs on it, gets an arrow, takes another shot, the quiver slides down his back, he tugs on it. I noticed that he has a habit of just shooting and tugging, because the thing moves every darn time. So, really, a side quiver like this is inexpensive. It works great. Our ancestors often used side quivers like this, of course made out of leather or made out of canvas, but they're very practical. And so that's what I would suggest. If you're just getting into it, try the little side quiver. I think it will help you quite a bit. And I'll just show you something else, just so you can see. You see, we took another little shot down the hall, and there it is. So this technique that I'm telling you about, the parallel draw, it's very accurate. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, guys, now some of the little steps that I want you to be aware of while we're shooting is the cocking of the head. Look at this. When I take a shot, I look at the target so we can see that my eye is lined up. But I'm also, you see, I touch here, right? That's the spot, the magic spot. So what do I do? Now, if this is the spot, I look at the target, and you see how I'm turning my head? So that spot and my eye are lined up. Now all I have to do is draw to it. So I am presetting the head. And this is another thing that we should consider. When I'm holding my arrow, it will be in a position about like that. Well, see, my fingertips are over here. That's, an inch and a half from there to there. So when I'm touching my spot, my arrow is actually an inch and a half away from where I'm touching. So I have to ensure that my head turns far enough that it compensates for that inch and a half, and then it's lined up straight. Okay, so there is a distance here. There is a cocking of the head to line up the jaw with the magic spot. So these are a couple of little things. Also, I find that I don't glue my nocks. I let them swivel. If you take a look at a string in slow motion, you can see that it's like a wave. It's wiggling. So rather than have it wiggle and throw my back of my arrow off, I leave the nock loose so that this will spin and allow the arrow to go straight. Well, it's eye on. Take that little open step, put a little tension on the bow, let it swing into its natural spot. Now look along and keep the arrow parallel. Draw it back, and then let your arm just hang, and off she goes. Okay? The other thing that I would say that we should consider is transferring the pressure. When I get that arm all the way back and it's hanging, then you transfer the pressure to the left hand so that it's just pulling on that elbow, So, yes, we want the arm all the way back, and we want it to be just relaxed and hanging, and then we want to be able to feel the pressure in the left hand pressing forward. Let it find its own spot, look parallel. Okay? So those are kind of the kinds of things that I want you to think about today. But the pressure coming from your right elbow, I would say, is the common denominator. It's got to be done no matter what style you're shooting if you want that pressure to be transferred along the arms. And I've switched back to using both eyes again. I find that this transfer system, if I'm looking straight at that target, I can just see when it's lined up. You know, you can just see it. So I find that the two-eye method is working good with this particular technique. Okay, so I guess that's about enough fun for this evening. And I'm going to get tidied up here and we'll go put this thing up. So anyhow, preset your head, get it all lined up. Remember, the arrow isn't right on the end of your fingers, so you've got to hold your head on an angle that everything comes together. And that's basically it. Just keep that right side relaxed. Anyhow, you guys go have some fun and I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye now.